Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is November 4th. So it's been quite the little interesting morning so far on the news. So I'm sure most of you have heard, but for those who haven't, and there's a couple things I'm just going to be looking at as a result. The case that Trump was fighting about New York getting his tax records with regards to, I think this is the Stormy Daniels situation and the donations and how they were, entered into the books. He has lost that. So now that Suckalo fool has already come out and said that, yep, they're going to appeal that to the Supreme Court. So my question is going to be like, I wonder if the Supreme Court's actually going to get into this mess, or if they're just going to decline to review the case. So that'll be interesting. I want to take a look at that. Secondly, Mitch McConnell is polling at something like 18% in Kentucky. He only has, I think it's 31 to 37, somewhere in there, I can't remember the exact number, of people who for sure are going to vote for him as of right now. So I want to take a closer look at that. I mean, part of his problem is not only is he becoming incredibly unpopular, but, Elaine Chao has really... she's in trouble. I mean, she's under federal investigation for basically shifting everything that she can to Kentucky at the expense of other contractors in other parts of the country. So this is not good. Talk about not being able to be even remotely unbiased, right? I mean, this is just ridiculous. So I'm going to take a bit of a dive on that. Okay, a couple of just things I need to touch base on first, okay? And this was actually some of the stuff that I was trying to get to last Friday, and I couldn't get, it wouldn't, record. I kept recording without sound. So here we go. I have been asked several times about whether this report of Baghdadi being dead is actually accurate, because, other people have reported him dead before. There's been several times. My energy impressions, and I have checked several times, maintain that yes, he did die, a week and a half ago in that tunnel. He committed suicide. That was his choice, that he did not want to be captured, and that is what he did. Previous comment, the last time he apparently had been killed, the Russians said it. So, I mean, who's going to believe what they say? That's just forget it. And beyond that, I know that there was apparently, somebody said it was also claimed in the Obama administration. Honestly, I don't know anything about that. I just do know that as far as what I am receiving energetically, yep, he's dead. He did it by suicide. And that's that. Epstein. I've also been asked to double check on the Epstein situation. I said at the time, and I maintain, I've got nothing to indicate otherwise. It was not a self-inflicted suicide. It was not. Eventually, stuff is going to come out on that, but don't expect it to come out with this administration, okay? Barr is going to protect everything he can, and that includes his involvement in the whole Epstein situation. That's what I know on those two topics for now. And frankly, that's kind of all I'm receiving at this time. Okay. And the third thing that I just heard this, and again, readers from Canada and Australia have I think a little bit more clarity. We're not better, but we have a slightly different perspective on America because we don't live it. And so we are able to be, I think, a little bit just more objective. So there's a lot of, excitement around Elizabeth Warren. I don't have an opinion on that. I really don't. But there was just a poll that came out, and it said 41% of voters said that women candidates are just simply not likable enough. Okay. And you know what? Again, I cast no aspersions, but we really shouldn't be surprised, should we? I mean, you had this massive amount of everything you're going through right now was because a whole bunch of the country didn't like the fact that you were being represented by a black president. They're not, the people who didn't like black presidents are the same people who are not yet convinced that women should actually have control over their body. So you can see where there's going to be some real resentment and pushback against a woman achieving that level of power. I have long said, I will repeat it again, the next president is going to be male with a female vice president who is black or brown. And this is the trajectory on that, just for clarity. You have a president who's going to come in 2020, take office in 2021. He's going to be there for 4 years. He's going to have a vibrant and really well-liked and really well-respected vice president. In 4 years, when that president willingly does not run again, she is in the perfect position to then ascend to the presidency because people have had some time to sort of acclimate to a woman in power like that. So I'm sorry if that upsets you. I'm sorry if that's not what you want to hear. If I hope I'm wrong for those of you who don't like what I'm saying. But energetically, that is absolutely what I'm getting. All right, let's get on with this. I want to take a look at, and the other thing I just want to mention really carefully is, or really quickly, private readings. The information is in the box below. In my last reading, when I mentioned it, I said that I was booking in February. I am not booking in February. I am booking in the last 2 weeks of November. So if you are interested in a reading, I have literally availability within a couple of weeks from now. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Moving on. All right, bank records and this situation with them getting turned over to I think it's the Manhattan district, who are investigating basically campaign violations from the way I understand it. So really what boils down to this, is the Supreme Court going to take up the case? Like, yes or no? Are they going to say, yep, we're going to take a look at that? Or are they going to say, no, you know what? The federal ruling that just came down today was accurate and it was just, and we're not going to review this. So I know that the Trump people, his lawyers have already said that they're going to file an appeal to the Supreme Court. I want to take a look and see if that's actually going to happen. Come on down. All right, so give it 1 or 2 more quick shuffles. So what I'm looking at is the Supreme Court taking up the case regarding Trump tax returns. And remember, this is not going to be handed over by Trump, and it's not going to be handed over by Mnuchin and his Treasury Department. They are wanting these records from Zairs, or whatever the name of his accounting firm is. Now, Trump's doing all of this stuff basically on their behalf, but when it comes right down to it, they are the ones who are not going to be able to ignore a subpoena. And I'm almost positive it's Manhattan. So let's take a look. Is the Supreme Court going to hear that case? Supreme Court taxes, Supreme Court taxes, Supreme Court taxes. Let's see what we get here. This is the thing, right? Trump and his lawyers, his personal lawyers, just continue to push forward and push forward. And what they're failing to understand, their arguments are so ridiculous. I mean, they're talking about, well, you can't even look at a president. You can't do this. You can't do this. He's immune from this. He's immune from that. They have literally spun such a ridiculous story, but they have sort of committed themselves to the ridiculous story. And so they are leaving themselves very, very little room to maneuver forward. They're going to keep pushing. I don't, this actually being taken up at this time by the Supreme Court. Now that may change. Apparently they're going to be able to expedite this thing. And so they're anticipating an answer about whether or not the Supreme Court will take this up literally within like a week or two. I don't see them wanting to take it on. I think that they feel like, as if they do not want to get into the position where they are being used for a president's personal whims and wishes. It's one thing to put somebody on the Supreme Court who maybe has more conservative views than the vast majority of Americans, for example. That is very different than putting somebody on the Supreme Court who willingly and obviously is prepared to do the president's bidding. And I don't see it happening. I think they're going to stand together and they're going to say, you know what? No, the federal court that ruled was accurate. We are not going to take this on. It's not going to go well for the Trump side, but the other side is going to do very well. They are going to be able to get this information. It is going to be handed over. Do not expect that the public are going to get information or see this information within a couple of days. We're not. But they should, as from what I can see, be able to actually uncover the mysteries. They're going to be able to get their hands on what's being hidden. And in doing that, they're going to have, more power and more tricks, kind of in their toolkit to be able to use to move these cases forward. Yeah. It's all about money with Trump. It's all about how he makes it. It's all about how he keeps it. It's all about how he launders it, maneuvers it. But ultimately, he's really likely to walk away from this situation because he's more interested in keeping his money private than he actually is in maintaining the presidency. He sees the money issues as exposure of those issues as a far, far bigger threat to him, I think, than we realize. Yeah, the judgment is going to go to the government, okay? So, there's that. So that's really good news. So let's hope I'm right on that one, but it definitely looks as if the appeal that Trump lost today will not be taken up by the Supreme Court, so the appeal will stand. And the ruling of the appeal was, no, they have to be handed over. This is a valid investigation, and they need that information. As it sits now, that's my take on that situation. So that's going to be interesting to see how that sort of all unfolds. All right. Now, and just as I'm doing this, I'm just sort of scanning over my brain and making sure that there wasn't anything else I wanted to add or look at in regards to Trump at this particular time. I saw that he went to some, fight or something in New York, and was roundly booed by the audience there. So, you know, again, I'm sorry, I agree with the people who say when we have a president who respects the office, we will respect the president. I honestly, I don't see anything wrong with the booing. I feel like karma happens, you know, every day in 100 different ways. And for those of you who, you know, are sort of monitoring the whole karmic connection to this, understand that over the course of literally the last 20, 30 years, karma has been coming around faster and faster and faster. You know, it used to be almost that you did something in this life and, you know, in the next life, you know, you would have to deal with it. Nowadays, sometimes you're literally having to deal with it within weeks or months. So that's kind of interesting. So I actually see a lot of karmic stuff coming back on him in the next little while. And yeah, is he crazy mad? Is he ranting and raving? Is he, you know, kicking furniture and throwing things in the way? Oh, you bet he is. Can anybody control him? Absolutely not. Is anybody actually trying to control him? No. That would be literally like putting your body on top of a bomb. So why are people going to do that? All right, let's take a look at the McConnell situation. I have said before, he is in trouble. He is being outraised in terms of, you know, campaign donations, rather badly and rather substantially by the Democrat who is, you know, looking to run against him. So that's like super interesting. And apparently that's happening in more than a few places. The other thing that was interesting that I saw really quickly about Trump this morning is that a new poll came out, and except for like in all of those key states where, you know, the race could go one way or the other, and I'm sorry, I'm not up on all of the names of them. Except for North Carolina, he is underwater against Joe Biden in every single state except North Carolina. Elizabeth Warren is not doing so well in those same states in terms of against Trump. So that's just sort of interesting, but make no mistake, he is just beside himself. And you're gonna get that crazy ranting, the insane tweets. It's going to get worse. And you know what? I mean, it's Trump. All right, let's take a look at McConnell and Elaine Chao. Mitch McConnell, Moscow Mitch, and Elaine Chao. Let's just take a quick look and see how you're doing, because I kind of have a feeling that maybe things are not going so well for you. All right, come on down. All right, so McConnell, Chao, current. McConnell, Chao, current. McConnell, Chao, current. Okay, so literally, they love their positions. They love the status. They love all of the money funneling into their private and personal accounts. They have used the White House to the point where the corruption that comes from them is so extreme that people are really getting sick and tired of what they are seeing. It feels to me energetically as if the good people of Kentucky are kind of going, I'm really tired of being painted with the same brush in terms of the things that McConnell says. I no longer want to stand here and be perceived as agreeing with this man. And so they are pulling their emotions away from him. And these three cards in some way tell a really interesting story of, how far they've come or what they've accumulated or amassed. So they used the White House for their own benefit and advantage, and certainly she used it for the benefit of her family and their personal finances. I mean, multi-millionaires, these people. Don't tell me that they care about the coal miners in Kentucky with black lung disease. And worse, when those coal miners wanted to talk to McConnell, good old Moscow Mitch, he refused to see them. These are his constituents, and he doesn't care that they are ill and dying. So there's a lot of emotions going against him. People are getting very angry with him. They've been very hurt by him, and they really are looking to remove him from his throne of power. And if that happens, and good old Mitch not only loses his Senate seat, and the Senate then loses the majority, which I really think is going to happen. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a cakewalk, but it'll be enough. That's not going to be so good. And when he doesn't have the status, if you will, or the protection of being a high-ranking government official, both of them, in their back pocket to protect them, they're going to discover that life is sort of not very pleasant as the average man. They're going to go into retreat. Things are not working for them. It's going to be a very difficult road going forward. Their reputations, I really think for the most part, are going to be quite destroyed. Their greed is going to come back, and there's going to be some very difficult for them information coming out about them. If you think that you know what has been going on with them, it literally is the tip of the iceberg. So much of it has been kept quiet. The communications have been blocked, coming from their offices, coming from Kentucky, coming from a bunch of stuff. But that's going to start to open up, and it doesn't actually look so good for them. So between the Four of Swords and the Ten of Swords, they're in for a rather rough road. This applies to both of them. They're trapped by their own greed. They're trapped by their own misdeeds, and they're not going to be able to sort of escape it. And I'm not quite sure how or why that is. It feels as if they themselves, because of their behaviors, have sort of put too big of a target on their own backs. And so they're going to be crushed by what they see, and they're going to be taken down by a woman. Fascinating. Just fascinating. So I guess the McConnells are in for a wee little bit of a bumpy road. And that's, I guess, deserved, frankly. All right. So this was interesting, and I'm going to do just a super duper couple minute read on this. It came out this morning that before Trump was incredibly worried about the corruption in the Ukraine, yeah, right. He was trying to build a Trump Tower in Kiev, Ukraine. Isn't that just fascinating? Apparently, a lot of Democrats did not know about this. Apparently, they're very interested now in finding out more about it. Apparently, so is the Joe Biden campaign. Very interested in taking a look. And this is public records, okay? This isn't like behind the scenes spy stuff. This is like public records. And for whatever reason, it just got lost in the shuffle. Well, guess what? That is about to become public. And I just want to take a look at how big a deal it's going to be, or if it's actually really going to hurt Trump going forward. You know, because he apparently was perfectly excited to build a Trump tower in Kiev when they had a corrupt president and a corrupt government in the Ukraine. That was exactly right up his alley. Okay? Trump, Kiev, tower. Trump, Kiev, tower. Trump, Kiev, tower. Okay, so this is what we have here. The White House being the president, it's not going to protect him anymore. More and more stuff is going to come out. There's things that are being offered to him, sort of escape hatches, sort of strategies. He's not listening to any of it. He is, I want to say, at that place where he's almost like irrational. He's not listening. His past, things from his past are going to continue to come up. They are going to continue to show him for the greedy, mercenary type behavior that he has indulged in his entire life. And again, news is going to come out that people are going to react to emotionally, almost viscerally. And that is not going to set up a good place for him. He can't take the exposure. He cannot. And he's not going to be able to spin it. And there's so much more coming out from his past about dark money and about the behaviors that basically got him to where he is now, where he absolutely is in cahoots, or definitely in a position where he has to pay back the Russians, or stay on their good side in whatever way that means. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. Take your vitamins, get lots of rest, stay hydrated, take a few walks in the park, because there's going to be a lot of information coming at us really, really fast. And we're going to need to be sharp and alert to actually receive it and process it. Okay. Thank you once again. My subscription numbers are going up really nicely. I'm so grateful. Thank you. The likes, the subscribes, of course, the comments are brilliant, and I'm very grateful for them. So thank you so much. I'll see you again really, really soon. And until then, take care. Be well. Bye-bye.